Please watch the entire fictional story so you don't misunderstand it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. You outside. Now. The words didn't sound like Manager Sejin. They sounded like something colder. The dance studio on the 4th floor of the HYB building smelled of floor wax and sweat and rain coming in through a cracked window. 11:47 p.m. The city outside was a blur of wet neon. Inside, 7 men in black practice clothes were breathing hard, their reflections fragmented across 3 mirrored walls. Jungkook was still in the center position. His shirt clung to his back. A water bottle lay on its side by his foot, sweating condensation. He had done nothing wrong. He had hit every count in Butter remix 2.5 times harder than the choreographer asked. He had been early. Sejin stood by the sound system, his headset still around his neck. His clipboard held so tight his knuckles were white. His eyes were locked on Jungkook. Hyung, RM said first because RM always said first. He was already stepping forward, wiping his face with a towel. What happened? The take was clean. It was not clean, Sejin said, not looking at RM. Jungkook, I told you at 3 p.m. to fix the bridge transition. You ignored it. Jimin's head snapped toward Jungkook. Jimin knows that bridge. Jimin had stayed with Jungkook until 2 a.m. last night working on that exact bridge. Jungkook blinked. A slow, confused blink. I did. I sent you the video at 4:12 p.m. Hyung, you said okay. I never got a video, Sejin snapped. The shock in the room was physical. Jin actually took a step back, his mouth slightly open. Suga, who was sitting against the wall lacing his shoes, stopped moving entirely. V and J-Hope looked at each other. J-Hope has a habit when he is nervous he rubs the back of his neck twice. Quick. He did it now. Twice. I did, Jungkook said, and his voice was smaller this time. This was the voice that scared Jimin the most. Not the angry voice, the small one, the one that trembles right before it breaks. I can show you. On my phone. He fumbled for his phone on the bench, his fingers damp. He unlocked it, his thumb shaking. The screen showed 2% battery. He tapped, and tapped again. No signal in this corner of the studio. The file wouldn't load. Sejin's frustration was not really about a video. Everyone in the room could feel that. His eyes were red-rimmed. He had been on calls with the tour production in LA since 5 a.m. His daughter was sick at home. He had been holding it in for 12 hours and the dam had chosen this moment, this boy, to break. This is what I'm talking about. You think talent is enough? You think you can just... Hyung, RM said again, firmer this time. He placed himself slightly between them, not as a shield, but as a buffer. His leader voice, deep even. Let's check the staff chat. Maybe it went to the group. It was a lie to give everyone time. RM knew Jungkook had sent it privately, because Jungkook always sent his private checks privately, a habit from his trainee days when he was terrified of looking stupid in front of everyone. A secret perfectionism that made him rewatch his own fan cam at 0.25x speed at 3 a.m. Jungkook's secret. He keeps a notebook where he writes down every correction, even tiny ones like elbow angle 2 degrees higher, in messy, urgent handwriting. Jimin's secret. He can tell Jungkook is about to cry not from his eyes, but from the way his left shoulder rises half an inch higher than his right when he's holding his breath. Jungkook, ah, Jimin whispered, moving close. So close his sweaty shoulder touched Jungkook's. He didn't hug him yet. Not in front of Sejin. He just stood there, a silent anchor. The faint smell of his citrus perfume mixing with sweat. Breathe. Jungkook was trying. He was trying so hard to not let the tears fall because the mirrors would see, because if he cried here, it would be forever in his memory as the night he cried over a missing video. V, who usually processes emotions a half-second slower than everyone else, suddenly said, Ah, I saw it. The video. At 4 p.m. You showed me before you sent it. Right, Jungkook? It was a clumsy, beautiful lie. V's acting was terrible and perfect at the same time. Suga finally stood up. He didn't look at Sejin. He looked at Jungkook. Battery died, kid. Mine too in the studio. Let's go to the office. Get the charger. 10 minutes. Sejin stared at the 6 faces looking back at him. 6 men who had been boys when he met them. He saw Jin's protective frown, RM's careful diplomacy, Suga's quiet defiance, J-Hope's worried hands, Jimin's trembling loyalty, V's loyal fabrication. And in the middle, Jungkook, 27 now, but for a second looking exactly like he did at 15 when he forgot his lyrics and thought he'd be sent home. The anger drained out of Sejin all at once, leaving something raw and embarrassed. Sejin rubbed his face hard. The Wi-Fi in here is trash, he muttered, his voice cracking. God, I'm sorry. My kid's in the ER. They said it's just a fever, but my wife. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Jungkook's tears, which had been held back with such force, finally slipped. Silent. He wiped it with the back of his wrist hard. RM exhaled. Yeah, Sejin Hyung, go. Go to her. We'll lock up. Sejin looked at Jungkook, his eyes full of regret. Jungkook, it's okay. Jungkook said quickly, too quickly, his voice burgeoner. You were right. I should have confirmed. Jimin finally couldn't hold it. He reached out, his hand finding Jungkook's, squeezing it hard under the cover of their bodies. A Pelucan Diem without arms. A secret touch that said, I saw everything. I know you did everything right. I'm here. And in the hallway outside the studio, just as Sejin turned to leave, a staff member ran in, holding a tablet, shouting, Hyung! The tour venue in Seoul, the roof leaked. The whole stage is flooded. We have to cancel tomorrow's rehearsal. All 7 heads turned at once. The real reason for the shock tonight hadn't even started yet. The tablet screen was a disaster movie in miniature. Security footage from KSPO Dome. A ceiling panel, swollen with 3 days of monsoon rain, had finally given up at 11:32 p.m. Water poured in a solid column onto the main stage, hitting the LED floor, short-circuiting the risers, soaking the custom-built platforms for the comeback. The staff member, a young coordinator named Minji, was breathing like she'd run up 4 flights. Facilities said the drainage on the roof clogged. The main power is off. They can't even assess until morning. For 3 seconds, no one in Studio B moved. Sejin, who had one hand already on the door handle to go to his daughter in the ER, froze. His other hand clenched the clipboard until the metal edge bent. This was his second nightmare of the night. The personal one and the professional one had just collided. Cancel, Jean whispered. It was the first time he'd spoken since the scolding. Jin's psychological defense mechanism is humor, but when he is truly shocked, he goes completely literal. We can't cancel. 15,000 people. Tomorrow is dress rehearsal. RM was already in leader mode. The switch was visible, his shoulders dropping, his chin lifting. No one cancels. Minji, call facilities back. Ask for Head Lee, not the night team. Tell him it's BTS. Tell him we need pumps tonight, not assessment tomorrow. His voice was calm, but inside, RM was doing his habit, counting prime numbers to keep panic down. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. He had started this in 2018 when the pressure got so bad he couldn't sleep without it. Jungkook hadn't moved from his ex on the floor. The earlier tears were gone, dried by the sheer absurdity of a new crisis. His mind, which has a unique way of dealing with trauma by immediately looking for something physical to fix, was already calculating. How much water? How heavy is a soaked LED panel? Can we dance on a wet floor? I know, Suga said. He knows too. Go. Sejin left, and the door clicked. The moment the door clicked, the family dynamic snapped back into place, but different, charged. Jungkook finally sat down, hard, on the wooden floor. His legs had been shaking from holding the dance position for so long. Jimin was instantly on the floor next to him. Not a dramatic hug, just knees touching knees. Jimin has a habit of picking at his cuticles when he is worried, and his thumbs were raw now. You okay? He asked in that Busan dialect that only comes out when he is truly emotional. Jungkook shook his head once. I kept thinking, maybe I really didn't send it, You did? V said from behind them, crouching down too. V's superpower is remembering useless, beautiful details. You sent it at 4:12 because I remember you said 12 is my lucky number today, and you laughed. A small, broken laugh escaped Jungkook. A real one. I did say that. J-Hope, who copes with anxiety by moving, was already pacing and clapping his hands. Okay, so plan. We can't use Dome tomorrow. Where else? Olympic Hall? It's free, I think. Smaller, but we can mark it. Mark it. Jungkook looked up. We need full out. And this is where the psychological depth of Jungkook shows. His deepest fear is not being scolded. His deepest fear is being the reason the team has to compromise. Since he was 13, his identity has been the one who can do it so everyone else can rest. If he is the reason for a smaller stage, that identity cracks. RM saw it. We will do full out, RM said. Wherever we are. But first, water. He wasn't talking about the dome. Jean had already brought 7 cold water bottles from the fridge and was handing them out, his own ritual of care. He pressed one into Jungkook's hands and held it there for a second longer than necessary. Jin's hands are always warm. Minji RM said to the coordinator, who was still standing in the doorway holding the disastrous tablet. Can you send us the staff chat log? For today. Just to confirm the video went through. It was a gentle, leader-like way to clear Jungkook's name without making it a trial. Minji tapped fast. 5 seconds later, 6 phones buzzed. In the group chat named Staff plus BTS 2026 Comeback. At 4:12 p.m. There it was. Jungkook. Video bridge transition fix final and underneath, Sejin. Okay, good, thanks. The message had been there the whole time. On silent. The room went silent again, but this time it was a different silence. Not shock. Relief, thick and heavy. Jungkook stared at the okay, good, thanks. He read it 3 times. His lip trembled. J-Hope let out a loud, SHC, and ruffled Jungkook's soaking wet hair hard, the way he did when Jungkook was 16. But Jungkook wasn't looking at the phone anymore. He was looking at the door where Sejin had left, worried about his daughter, carrying guilt. He has a lot, Jungkook whispered. Jimin nodded, his own eyes now shining. He does. And you have us. At 12:04 a.m., RM's phone rang. Head Lee from facilities. The pumps are coming. But RM, the floor will be wet for 48 hours. You can't rehearse there. 7 men looked at each other in the mirror. 7 reflections, exhausted, sweaty, one with tear tracks, all still in practice clothes. Then we rehearse here, Jungkook said, standing up. His voice was no longer small. It was low, determined. The voice he uses right before he does 100 extra push-ups. All night. If we can't have the stage, we become the stage. Jean smiled for the first time that night. Ya, Magne, you sound like a drama. Good, Jungkook said, and for the first time that night, he smiled too, a little Malala and tired. Let's make it dramatic. From outside, a new sound. Not rain, sirens, an ambulance far away, then another. Jimin's phone lit up. A message from Sejin with a photo. A little girl in a hospital bed giving a thumbs up. 4 in her arm. Underneath, she's okay. Thank you. And tell Jungkook I'm so sorry. I saw the video. Jungkook read it over Jimin's shoulder. He felt something deep in his chest finally release. But before anyone could celebrate, the studio lights flickered. Once, twice, then went completely black. In the pitch dark of Studio B, with the rain hammering the windows, 7 breaths were heard. And then, a different door, the emergency exit that no one ever uses, creaked open. Someone else was in the building. Darkness in a dance studio is different from darkness outside. Outside, darkness has stars, has streetlights, has distance. Inside Studio B, with the blackout blinds that were pulled for privacy and the mirrors on 3 sides, darkness was total. It was a black that had weight. It smelled suddenly of hot electronics cooling down and old wood. For half a second, no one breathed. Then Jean, Because he is Jin. Said, okay. Who forgot to pay the electric bill? Nobody laughed. But the sound of his voice was enough to make their eyes start adjusting. The emergency exit door, the heavy steel one at the far end that led to the back stairwell, the one that was always locked from the outside and alarmed, was open a crack. A thin line of yellow emergency light from the stairwell cut across the wooden floor. A silhouette stood there. "Don't scream," the silhouette said, and it was a woman's voice, young, out of breath. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know I'm not supposed to be here." J-Hope was already moving, not as a dancer, but as the Hyung who protects. He stepped in front of the younger ones without thinking. "Who are you?" The girl stepped into the studio, and the emergency light caught her. She was in a facilities uniform 2 sizes too big, holding a huge flashlight that was too heavy for her. Her face was red from running, her hair tied up messily. She couldn't have been more than 22. "I'm Park Seo-yeon, intern, facilities night team," she said, bowing fast, 90 degrees, still holding the flashlight. "Head Lee sent me. He said BTS is still here. Don't let them leave in the dark. The main breaker for this floor tripped because of the dome pumps pulling too much power. I have to reset it." "I'm so sorry." RM let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, he was counting again. Jungkook, who was still standing in the center, felt his heart hammer against his ribs so loud he thought Jimin could hear it. Jimin, whose knees were still touching his, had grabbed his wrist in the dark. A tight, instinctive grip. Not romantic. Survival. The grip of someone who gets scared of the dark since childhood. A habit Jimin never told fans about, only the members knew, because he used to sleep with the bathroom light on in the dorm in 2013. "You're okay," Jungkook whispered to Jimin. So quiet only Jimin could hear. He turned his hand over and squeezed back. Seo-yeon fumbled to the breaker box behind the mirrors, muttering apologies. The flashlight beam bounced wildly. And in that bouncing light, V saw something. On the tablet Minji had left on the bench, which was still on, still showing the security footage of the flooded KSPO dome, the water wasn't the only thing moving. In the corner of the footage, at 11:32 p.m., the exact moment the ceiling panel broke, a person walked across the empty stage. Unhurried, in a black hoodie, they looked up directly at the security camera. Then they raised a hand and pulled the emergency release for the ceiling drainage tank, the manual release that should only be pulled during maintenance. It wasn't an accident. The flood was deliberate. "Hyung," V said, his voice suddenly very cold, very adult, the voice he uses when he is truly afraid. "Look." 6 heads crowded around the small tablet in the dark, lit only by Seo-yeon's flashlight beam swinging from the wall. Suga, who had been quiet for a long time, felt a familiar anger rise. The same anger he felt in 2017 when someone leaked their private flight information. His jaw tightened. His secret trauma is not about hate, but about helplessness. About not being able to protect the people he loves from invisible threats. "Who is that?" RM asked, his leader brain already moving from dance to security to legal to media in 0.5 seconds. Jungkook zoomed in with 2 fingers. The face under the hoodie was blurry, pixelated, but there was something on the wrist. Tattoo. Or a bracelet. A silver bracelet with a small, distinctive charm. Crescent moon. Jungkook froze. He had seen that bracelet before. Not on a Sejin. On someone inside the company. Someone who had been in this very studio at 4 p.m., watching him practice the bridge transition, smiling. The lights suddenly came back on with a loud clack, blinding white. Seo-yeon stood by the breaker, smiling triumphantly. "Done. Sorry for the scare." Everyone blinked hard against the light. The tablet screen went black as its battery finally died. Jungkook's phone, plugged into the wall for 2 minutes, vibrated. 1% battery. A message from an unknown number. A photo of the KSPO dome stage, flooded. And underneath, text. "If he can't be perfect on time, he shouldn't be on stage at all. This is what happens when you are late." Jungkook's hands started to tremble again. That deep, uncontrollable trembling he thought he had stopped. Jimin saw the message over his shoulder. His whole body went rigid. "Who sent that?" Jimin asked, his voice barely a whisper, but filled with something protective and fierce that made even RM turn. Jungkook couldn't answer, because the number, though unknown, had a profile picture. It was Sejin's daughter in the hospital bed. The same photo Sejin had just sent. Someone had Sejin's phone. The photo of Sejin's daughter was still on Jungkook's screen, glowing at 1% battery. Jungkook's mind did what it always does under threat. It went too fast. He thought about Sejin's phone, left on the sound desk. He thought about the bracelet. He thought about being late even though he wasn't late, and about being the reason everything was falling apart. RM took the phone gently from his hand before the battery died. He looked at the message, at the photo, and his eyes narrowed. Not with anger, with recognition. "This isn't Sejin's number," RM said quietly. "This is his wife's number. Look at the contact name. It says Jisoo Nuna at the top, but it's cropped." He turned the phone so everyone could see. The profile picture wasn't Sejin's daughter. It was a photo of Sejin's daughter that Sejin's wife had set as her own profile picture months ago. A common habit for parents. Suga was already on his phone, calling Sejin. "Hyung, where's your wife's phone?" On speaker, Sejin's voice was exhausted but calmer. Traffic noise behind him. "She left it at the front desk of the ER to charge." "Why?" She said some intern from facilities asked to borrow a phone to call his boss because his was dead. "What's wrong?" The intern. "The facility's uniform 2 sizes too big. The flashlight too heavy." Seo Yun was still standing by the breaker box, watching 7 idols stare at her with an intensity she had never felt. V walked up to her, not threatening, just curious. "Seo Yun SSI, your bracelet." She looked down at her wrist. A silver bracelet with a small crescent moon charm. "Oh, my little sister gave it to me for luck. Isn't it cute?" Jungkook felt the floor tilt. "It was you?" Jimin asked, his voice not accusatory, just broken and confused. "On the stage? In the video?" Seo Yun's face went white. "What? No. I was at the dome. Head Lee sent me there at 9 p.m. to check the roof drain. The manual said if water pools, you pull the emergency release to drain it to the side tank, not onto the stage. But I pulled the wrong one. The red one, not the blue one. I flooded it. I tried to fix it, but then Head Lee said go to HYBE. BTS is there. Reset the breaker, so I ran." She burst into tears. Not dramatic tears. The ugly, panicked tears of a 22-year-old intern on her 3rd day who thought she had just ended the career of the biggest group in the world and lost her family's health insurance. "And the message?" She sobbed. "I saw your manager's wife's phone on the desk. She asked me to watch it for a minute, and I saw your name, Jungkook SSI, on the recent messages, and I wanted to apologize for the stage. I thought you were late because you were stuck at the dome like me. I typed it wrong, my English is bad. I meant to say, this is what happens when it rains, not when you are late. I used translator." Silence. Then the most unexpected sound. Suga laughed. A short, disbelieving, exhausted laugh. Jean followed. Then J-Hope. Then all of them, not at her, but at the sheer, human, terrible, beautiful mess of the night. RM crouched down so he was eye level with Seo Yun, who was still crying hard, her shoulders shaking. "Hey," Jungkook, whose hands had finally stopped trembling, walked over and picked up the heavy flashlight she had dropped. He handed it to her. "Here. You were brave to come here in the dark." Seo Yun looked up, her eyes red. "You aren't angry? I ruined your rehearsal." Jungkook shook his head. For the first time that night, his smile reached his eyes, that deep, warm, melting smile that made stadiums scream but was now just for one scared intern in a too big uniform. "We already ruined our own rehearsal tonight," he said. "We were too busy being scared to talk to each other." At 2:13 a.m., the 7 of them were back in the center of Studio B. The flood at the dome would take 2 days to fix. Sejin was with his daughter, who was fine. Seo Yun was sent home in a company car with a promise that Head Lee would be told the truth, that she had followed the manual that had the colors labeled wrong. The speaker was on. Low volume. RM said, from the top, bridge transition. For real this time. Jungkook took